My best friend of 22 years refused to let me meet her mother. The truth she revealed on her deathbed changed both our lives forever. I always joked that my best friend had the most mysterious family in the world. She never laughed. Her name was Hannah. We met when we were 6 years old on our first day of school. From that day forward, we were inseparable. Sleepovers, birthdays, graduations, first heartbreaks. She was the sister I never had. But there was one rule she never broke. Never ask about her mother. I met her father once. I met her grandparents twice. I even met distant cousins. But her mother, never. Every time I asked, Hannah would simply say, "It's complicated." After 22 years, I stopped asking. I figured everyone had secrets. Then Hannah was diagnosed with leukemia. Everything changed overnight. She was only 28. For nearly a year, I spent every free moment at the hospital. One evening, she grabbed my hand. "If anything happens to me," I interrupted her. "Nothing's going to happen." She smiled sadly. "If it does, promise you'll meet my mother." I stared at her. "You've spent 22 years hiding her." "I know. That's why you have to meet her." A week later, Hannah died. I don't remember much about the funeral, only that I'd never felt so empty. 3 days afterward, a lawyer called. Apparently Hannah had left me something. Not money, not jewelry, a letter, and an address. The letter simply said, "Everything I told you about my family was a lie." My hands started shaking. She asked me to visit the address. Alone, no matter what happened. The address led to a quiet nursing home. The receptionist smiled sadly. "You must be Emma. She's been waiting." I followed her into a small room. An elderly woman sat by the window. The moment she saw me, she burst into tears, then whispered, "You have your mother's eyes." I froze. "My mother," she nodded. "I knew your mother." Then came the first twist. She wasn't Hannah's mother. She was mine, or rather, she had raised me for the first 3 years of my life. I couldn't breathe. Apparently when I was a toddler, my biological parents were killed in a car accident. I was temporarily placed with a close family friend. This woman, Margaret. Later I was adopted by relatives. The adoption was completely legal, but Margaret was devastated. She wasn't allowed to stay involved. Then came the second twist. Margaret eventually had a daughter, Hannah. My best friend. She knew the truth from childhood. She knew we had once been sisters in everything except blood. She knew I had lived in that house, played in that garden, called Margaret Mama. I remembered none of it. Hannah remembered everything. Margaret reached into a drawer and handed me an old photograph. There we were, 2 toddlers, holding hands, laughing. On the back someone had written, "No matter where life takes them, they'll always find each other." I started crying. For 22 years, Hannah knew. She became my friend intentionally. She protected the secret because our adoptive families believed reopening the past would only cause pain. But as she got sicker, she couldn't die without giving me back part of my own history. Then came the biggest twist. Margaret handed me one final envelope. Inside were dozens of letters. Letters Hannah had written throughout our friendship. One every birthday. One every Christmas. One after every major milestone. She planned to give them to me someday. If she ever found the courage to tell me the truth. She never did. One letter broke me completely. Sometimes I wanted to tell you everything. But then I'd watch you laugh. And I couldn't risk losing you. I'd rather spend my whole life as your best friend than lose you trying to become your sister again. I cried harder than I ever had. Not because she'd lied, because she'd carried that secret alone for 22 years. Today, I visit Margaret every Sunday. We cook together, talk about Hannah, look through old photo albums, slowly rebuilding 30 years that were stolen by circumstances. Sometimes people ask if I resent Hannah for keeping the truth from me. I don't, because now I understand. She wasn't protecting a secret. She was protecting our friendship. She was terrified that one revelation would destroy the most important relationship either of us had. Instead, it made me realize something. Family isn't always the people you're born with. Sometimes, they're the people who find you twice. Once as children, and once again when you're finally ready for the truth. What would you have done if your best friend revealed she'd been hiding a life-changing family secret for more than 20 years? Was Hannah right to keep the truth hidden, or should she have told me years earlier? Comment below what you think.